Thank you for coming in spite of the bad weather and the rain and for being so many of you here tonight. I just want to welcome, first of all our Haitian colleagues, and I want to express my deepest sympathy to all the Haitians who are in the room tonight, but also all those who are in Haiti. The tragedy which has hit their country is unimaginable. As you probably saw on these few pictures, I was in Haiti with a team of 6 students, and we were there during the earthquake and a few days after that. And I just cannot describe the misery and the pain that we have seen. The tragedy, as you know, has brought massive loss of lives on the part of the Haitians. Many are still under the rubbles. Many don't have water, food, or shelter at this stage. We have lost also a lot of our UN colleagues. It's probably the biggest loss that the UN has ever seen. And therefore we are in front of this tragedy that we don't understand, and which is hitting Haiti in a way that is quite ununderstandable. I want to tell you that we went to Haiti last year, SIPA and 6 students, because we wanted to look at this country which had already since 2004 seen a food crisis, unrest, and the change of the prime minister with a government which had difficulties for 5 weeks, then saw hurricanes, cyclones, a financial crisis, and now an earthquake, and this is in the space of a few years. And if you remember that Haiti was already a fragile state before the earthquake, that 65%, and as a matter of fact, more than that, 75% at the time, last year was 80, of the people live with less than $2 a day and in a state of extreme poverty. If you realize that at that time, before the earthquake, institutions needed to be strengthened, the government was needed a lot of capacity already, you will understand why this is a crisis of extraordinary proportion, with a lot of challenges ahead of us. However, in spite of all these problems that Haiti had encountered, 2009 seemed to have been a quiet year. And I remember calling Hedi Anabi, the head of the peacekeeping operation, on 31st December to wish him a happy new year. How little did I know that he would die. But I remember him saying to me, for the first time in Haiti, people are getting together, families are inviting each other, there is a semblance of peace. There are lights in Port-au-Prince, and things are starting slowly to recover. There was a window of opportunity with the conference in Washington in last April with Bill Clinton, who had been appointed the special envoy of the Secretary General, and with him trying to bring the private sector in Haiti. And we were doing a research project on the relationship between the private sector and development and peacekeeping, and wondering how a peacekeeping operation, which didn't have a development mandate, in a country with 80% of extreme poverty, could really establish peace. And we realized very quickly that the hard security which MINUSTA had achieved could not be sustained if it could not be translated in socio-economic gains for the people. And that's where we were when the earthquake came. But we have a technical problem. It's coming back. As you know, there was a conference in Montreal today. There will be also a meeting in Davos very soon where Bill Clinton will present a long-term proposal, probably with the private sector as well. And we are here looking at this extraordinary tragedy and all wondering how Haiti is going to go back to its feet. And I would like to say that from my experience, I don't think anybody can rebuild Haiti. I think only the Haitians can. And I think we should never forget this. And we should give the Haitians the opportunity to do that with dignity, with them being able to restore the credibility and legitimacy of their state, to give them all the assistance we can and all the capacity we can, but we have to let them define their needs and tell us the way we can help. Death reinforces life, and we are at a time when we need to move on and we need to rebuild. And I'm not talking about rebuilding with cement and dollars and mortar. That will be in a way easy, provided that the international community really gives the funds. I'm talking about rebuilding society. And I'm talking about a challenge to the international community which is not financial only. And that is the challenge that we all face in front of fragile states. It takes a long time. This will be a long haul. And my question will be to the speakers, will the international community stay the course, stay the time it will take to help Haiti be a country again? To discuss all this, I would like to introduce tonight our speakers. I'm so grateful they came. You have to know that OCHA is bare to the bone and couldn't send anybody. DPKO sleeps 2 hours a night just now. I couldn't send anybody, but we have Jean-Marie who was at the helm of peacekeeping operation for 8 years and who is teaching about fragile states at SIPA, who will, I'm sure, tell us what is happening on the peacekeeping side. Let me introduce all the speakers to you. I would like first to introduce to you our Haitian colleague, Jocelyn Makala, who is here. And at the time of the special initiative of the Clinton and the Washington conference, the government of Haiti had set up a commission to try to define its needs and give the information to Bill Clinton as to what they needed and what he should therefore ask the private sector. And Leslie Voltaire in Haiti was certainly working very hard on this. And Jocelyn Makala was his advisor here in New York and also in Haiti. I know they were defining their priorities before the earthquake. No doubt that they will need to review and to redefine all these priorities now. And I know that Jocelyn would very much like students of SIPA to help in an internship to help him do research on how to rebuild the capacity of the state after a disaster of that magnitude. So if you are interested, please come to see me. I will circulate a kind of terms of reference. I just want to tell you that this is exciting, and I hope you all volunteer, provided that you speak French or Creole, which is even better. I just want to go to our next speaker. Jean-Marie Desnaux, you know, I already introduced him in a way. Bob Orr works in the Office of the Secretary General, and he works in the policy planning. He deals with many issues, including the food crisis, health, global health, and also counter-terrorism. He will explain to us the position of the UN. Ambassador Barton is from the US mission and is dealing with the ECOSOC and all the, in a way, all the economic issues. He is not a New Yorker for long, but this will be baptism of fire, and he has worked, he was the deputy in the UNHCR with the refugees, and we met at that time in Geneva, I believe, or we talked to each other. And he has dealt with many conflicts, being natural or man-made conflict in his work. So he has a great experience. I would also like to, and I'm going really by order, Jeffrey Sachs needs no introduction at SIPA. He is the director of the Earth Institute. He is there, and he will probably be one of the first speakers because he has to travel and has to leave early. I really want to thank him. He has been trotting around the globe, and I know exactly how it feels. Tatiana, where is Tatiana? Here she is. Tatiana Roy is from Haiti. She was in Haiti with us, as a matter of fact. We met and interviewed her. She's a Haitian voice. She knows a tremendous amount about her country. She works with Jeffrey Sachs in the Earth Institute, and I'm sure you will enjoy her as a speaker. Last but not least is Pablo Luis, who is from UNDP, from the recovery section. He has worked on so many conflicts, including the tsunami, including Lebanon, and he has a great experience in emergency as well as transition phases from emergency going to recovery. I just want to ask you to welcome the panel and give them a big applause for coming tonight.
I want to thank SIPA and everybody else who really quickly assembled here today to talk about Haiti in the wake of one of the most disastrous events that have occurred to the country in the last 200 years. My name, as was said, is Jocelyn McCallum. I'm the senior advisor to Haiti Special Envoy to the United Nations, Ambassador Leslie Walter. I fully subscribe to the notion that was expressed earlier by our host that Haitians should own the process of rebuilding the country. Haitians should drive the process of rebuilding the country. Haitians will need all the help that they can get from the international community, from you and from concerned citizens of the world, but that Haitians should be in the forefront of efforts to rebuild the country, and not only to rebuild its infrastructure, but to rebuild its political and social structure in a way that provides more equity to the people of the country, and that ensures that those people who lead the country are more transparent, more responsible, more efficient at running things in the country. Those are the aims and the terms under which we should focus and operate on. Now let me say a little bit more about the office that I was leading. As Ms. Lindenmayer said, the office was set up in response to the initiative taken by the UN Secretary General to appoint a special envoy to Haiti in order to steer more interest in Haiti and perhaps in a more capital investment to the country via the good offices of President Bill Clinton. We worked from the very beginning with the President to try to trigger more interest in Haiti. In fact, 2 days before the meeting was, before the earthquake hit Haiti, we were, my superior, Ambassador Voltaire, and I were in the midst of trying to sort of organize a meeting which was going to feature the Prime Minister of Haiti in New York with many interested investors in the country, as well as people were going to take a look at how to answer the issues of disaster, risk and disasters that the country faced. But as you probably know, part of the reason why the international community responded and began to respond in a much more focused fashion to Haiti was back in 2008, the fall of 2008, 4 tropical storms hit the country and produced severe damage to the Tibonite Valley, to the town of Gonaïve and other towns, flooding the towns and ensuring, in fact, causing what was estimated at about $1 billion in damage. The risk of Haiti facing other such natural catastrophes, because the infrastructure of the country has been weakened over time, and some of the causes are very well known. I'm not going to go into them. The risk of the country facing these natural catastrophes is greater than ever. And as the earthquake demonstrated, because because there were steps that needed to be taken that were not taken in order to build out a structure that could respond and could take into account the environmental changes and the natural changes. Because some steps have not been taken, then we have a situation in which that led to the death of thousands of people, the destruction of about 3 million people at the very least. At least a third of the country's lives has been disrupted, and therefore it puts squarely before us the need to think in terms of rebuilding the country, rebuilding it better, not just a swap of it, but the entire country, and rebuilding it as state. How is that going to proceed? Well, it's very early to tell. First, let's not underestimate what has happened to the government here. Most of the buildings that serve as institutions from which government officials work have been destroyed. The only building that in my mind, or I've been told, is the standing is the office of the Prime Minister, but that office has been turned into a homeless camp, and the Prime Minister is not necessarily using that office to operate out of it. I mean, as you probably read in the newspapers, the President and the Prime Minister operate out of a makeshift headquarters based in the International Port-au-Prince. What that means specifically is the following. Communications between various Haitian government offices has been severely disrupted. There's a significant obstacles to the government leaders communicating to their staff, to other people, what is going on in the country, and what the steps are that the government is taking. There are certainly communication problems between Haiti, Port-au-Prince, and the people who work for the government outside of Port-au-Prince. But at the same time, our challenge is to be able to manage realistically the amount of goodwill which translates into promises of international assistance, deployment of international assistance, underground, and so on and so forth. So you have, the picture I'm trying to draw for you, and perhaps we can flush this out in the discussion, the picture I'm trying to draw for you is one in which very, very, very easily you had a weak government which has been rendered much weaker, but from whom much is expected. Right now, I would say, for example, there are international relief groups that have far more resources to bring to bear to the situation in Haiti than the government can. And that's a challenge that we're going to have to face. Now, today, as we speak, has been an international conference on Haiti being held in Montreal, which is a preliminary conference that will set the stage for another meeting sometime. Perhaps, I'm not sure exactly when the date of the meeting is going to be held, but that meeting is going to focus on what the rebuilding part is going to do. I'm sure that my colleagues have far more to say about some of aspects of rebuilding, given that their involvement in different missions of the UN, as well as their connection to the actual relief effort. We are phasing out the rescue and search mission. Today we are in fact in phase 2. And the success of Haiti in the future is going to be really based on what happens within the next 6 weeks. And whether or not there is a strategy, there is a winning strategy that takes into account effort that need to be made over the next 10, 20 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth, and thanks to all the fellow panelists and everybody who's doing heroic things and adding to solutions. Let me take a couple of parts of this very complicated mega disaster. Of course, we're facing one of the deadliest natural disasters in human history, just in recent history. One of the top few earthquake death tolls ever recorded, and it still continues to rise. What Jocelyn said just now about the different overlapping phases of response is very important. The search and rescue period is basically over. There's an urgent relief period right now to keep the population alive. Water, food, shelter, and so forth. That will continue, of course, for some months. And there's some very urgent issues involved. For example, the beginning of the rainy season and the beginning of the hurricane season coming shortly. So very profound, difficult challenges of protecting people from risks that are just around the corner. But all of this is going to have to be integrated not only with reconstruction, that's obvious, but also with development, because the problem is not to reconstruct Haiti. The problem is that Haiti was already impoverished without the most basic infrastructure, without the safety of lodgings, reinforced structures, which obviously contributed to this horrific death toll. So many things are intertwined in the process, and we need a holistic view, which is not easy in and of itself, and for which the international organizations are going to be very severely challenged, because some specialize in relief, some are thinking in terms of basic provision of food or water right now, but we're talking about something that goes far beyond setting up tents, or far beyond the issue of bringing in food aid and emergency relief, as important as that is. So let me talk a little bit about these different elements. My focus is on the public sector, I want to stress, because the private sector will have its role in a while, but the private sector does not have its leadership role right now. And in general, even before this earthquake, there was not a proper balance between the public investments needed and the private investments needed, because the private sector only lives on an adequate infrastructure, and there did not exist an adequate infrastructure before. So chasing business investment when there's no power, inadequate roads, and so forth can't work anyway. This must be a public-led effort for a while. Not that private firms on contract won't do things, but it's going to be public financing and public leadership to get something going again. Now, there's some very urgent issues. I'm not the expert here on this, but tent cities and so forth are very dangerous in a hurricane alley. And what is the proper strategy, even over weeks, therefore, for where people are going to live when the rain starts and when the hurricane season begins? Because they will be in harm's way if this is handled in a normal, quote-unquote, normal refugee or displaced persons context. Flooding, massive storms, massive hurricanes, this is what this country lives through and has to be taken into account. Of course, we've already seen aftershocks, and we heard this afternoon from our seismologists about further trigger earthquakes. We also heard about the possibilities of reinforcing buildings, even ex post, in ways that can be quite important, and there needs to be a strategy for that right away. Still staying on the very short term, the UN system is better at bringing food and water than it is at bringing health care, because we do not have operational health interventions organization the same way we have a World Food Program or UNHCR. And we're seeing really a disastrous situation in basic health provision right now, which will get worse because there are lots of injured people. They will not get follow-up and so forth. WHO is not an operational organization. It's a normative organization. We don't have a WFP equivalent right now. This is something that absolutely needs addressing in hours and days, not in weeks and months, because large numbers of lives will be lost. I received a rather shocking email by an orthopedic team that went to Haiti and left because nothing was provisioned at all for them to be effective. From the most basic supplies, the most basic orientation, the most basic help from any agency, and so forth. And it was rather dramatic because this was many people sending in supplies and they could get no support from anybody to do anything, and they just left them on their own. So another point that I want to emphasize is that Haiti is a rural country still. Even more so, obviously, after this disaster. But it was about 2/3 of the population working in agriculture, at least part-time or full-time, as peasant farmers or part-time farming. And this needs to be attended to. Haiti needs to feed itself, and it's the predominant livelihood for the country. The rainy season, the planting season, starts in 8 weeks. The definition of Haiti's smallholder farming is an almost no improved input farming. This is a disaster. In Haiti, the farmers are getting about 800 kilograms of cereal production per hectare, whereas in the Dominican Republic it's 4.5 tons, 4,500 kilograms per hectare. The overwhelming difference there is that Haitian farmers do not have access to improved seed and fertilizer. I would strongly recommend, as an absolutely key intervention for the next 6 months, to move ships with fertilizer and seed right now. No more missions, just send the ships, because I know the food security system of the UN. It could take 3 planting seasons to get something done. And what's needed is bags of fertilizer distributed through the villages of the countryside now. So we ought to get on the phone with Monsanto and with Mosaic and with Yara and others and get the shipments of fertilizer and seed moving right now so that this country can feed itself, and without further delay. And I'm working on that. I hope the UN will work on that. This is urgent. Now, there is no agency that does this. FAO talked about a $23 million project as part of the Flash Appeal. It's just a tiny part. And FAO is also not much of an operational organization. It's more of a normative organization. So we have to move very quickly in new and different ways. This country cannot live on food rations coming from outside. It's an unbelievable waste of money, effort, loss of Haitian skill, loss of Haitian livelihoods, loss of Haitian dignity, loss of nutrition, everything. Let's get inputs to the farmers immediately. And by the way, when this is done in equally poor, institutionally deficient settings like Malawi, you double the food production in a simple matter within months or weeks. It does not take studies, doesn't take World Bank missions, doesn't take long planning. It takes dropping off a 50-kilo bag of fertilizer for each hut, each household, so that they can plant on their half-hectare farm. So I want to insist on that as something that can be done, and should be done very, very quickly. The next phase, and I'll be brief on this, is the reconstruction and development aspects. These are 2 distinct activities. And that's why we have reconstruction and development in the name of the World Bank itself. as the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the formal name of the World Bank. There's a rebuilding and there's a development phase. We need to keep both of these in mind. We shouldn't talk about helping Haiti simply to rebuild, because that would be rebuilding to the most extreme poverty and vulnerability of the Western Hemisphere, which is no answer for this country. We should talk about helping Haiti to get on a path of true sustainable development. And that requires a different kind of approach. The experience from the hurricanes of 2008 to the earthquake period was not a happy period, I want to stress. Almost nothing happened in the international response. I do this for a living. Nothing moved. Not that nothing happened because Haitians were doing things, but the international community barely functioned to actually help. I went to more conferences, more meetings, heard more speeches, read more reports, wrote more reports, without anything actually happening. That's how the international system unfortunately works, because it's cash-strapped. And meetings are cheap. Real development aid is more expensive. So let me talk about the money involved. We need to, before the cameras go out, we need to put some real money into this. The cameras are already getting turned off. Haiti will be a forgotten issue in weeks, even with something of this magnitude. Right now, everybody wants to plant a flag to show how they're the best friends of a country that they've ignored for decades. If they really want to help, put money in a bank account. My recommendation is put it at the Inter-American Development Bank, because it's the most professional institution with a full-time responsibility for development finance for Haiti of any institution. The World Bank has too many things going on in the world, whereas the IDB is created for this purpose, and it's been a good friend of Haiti, of all of the international agencies with financing operational responsibility. The UN does a lot of crucial things, but it doesn't do large-scale finance. For that, we need an international finance institution, and I would recommend the Inter-American Development Bank. So my strong recommendation is we put some billions of dollars there. Without that, I fear we're going back to mythology soon. Don't count on the private sector rescuing. Don't count on bilateral donor agencies remaining interested. Don't count on them even being able to move money, because they don't move money. It takes forever. There are 23 bilateral donor agencies. There are another 15 or 20 multilateral institutions engaged right now in the UN agencies and so forth. Coordination is nearly impossible over any long term. So I believe we need one multi-donor fund with the real money there as the counterpart of the government of Haiti, so that the government of Haiti has a chance to actually get the financing that it needs to really get this done. The U.S., I've been through many cycles of Haiti. I'm not an Haiti expert, but I've been through many cycles, through many Aristide governments and many other governments. The U.S. will lose interest quickly. That's part and parcel of our political system. So the money better get there in the bank. And I would strongly urge President Obama to appropriate right now a supplemental appropriation, or put it in the budget coming out next week, of at least $1 billion this year and $1 billion next year, not through USAID, not through U.S. institutions, but in a multi-donor account. If he really wants to show America cares, take it out of the U.S. government. The U.S. government can come in and work, but it will otherwise tie this thing up in knots for a long time. All the donors want to do their own thing right now. And we just need one thing done, which is Haitian government leadership to help get certain key things underway. What are the costs of this? Let me just give you a very rough guess. Nobody knows, of course, but just a rough guess. President Preval asked Tatiana and me over the summer to help scope out development issues for the country. And our estimate was that the normal development assistance would be between $1 and $1.5 billion a year as the need for normal development aid. That's compared to actual development aid of about $300 million a year, and another emergency $250, $300 per year, and MINUSTA about $600 million a year. So total spending on Haiti up to the earthquake was about $1.2 billion a year, 1/4 of which I would count as development assistance, 1/4 of which I would count as emergency help, food aid, and so forth, and 1/2 of which was peacekeeping operations. The actual development aid probably needs to be 4 or 5 times that amount, even before the earthquake. $1 to $1.5 billion a year for many years to come. That's to build roads, power, clinics, schools, agricultural capability, and so forth. That was a pretty good calculation that fit in well with the amounts that one would see in other countries. How about reconstruction? It's anybody's guess because this will take careful engineering and so forth, but my guess, as part of anybody's guess, is $5 to $10 billion required. Maybe $2 billion for housing, another $1 billion for roads, and another couple of billion for other parts of clearing and key infrastructure, hospitals, schools, government buildings, and so forth. But it could be $10 billion, probably not 15 or 20 billion for the reconstruction part. Then there's a third category, which is for people left destitute and in need of relief or further health emergencies and so forth. And I put that at about $1 billion this year, which matches the flash appeal of the UN, which is $500 million over 6 months. I put it at $1 billion over a year and then tapering off gradually. If I add up those pieces, my completely, literally back of the envelope, because that's where it was first done, was the back of an envelope, is about $3 billion per year. $1 billion for reconstruction, $1 billion for relief, and $1 billion for development. And those numbers would continue in a slightly different way, more for development over time, less for relief. But that, to my mind, is roughly an order of magnitude. That's a pretty modest sum for what's at stake. Maybe it's too low. It's not too high an estimate. But it's much more than we'll actually get unless we put a new institutional frame around it. What we'll normally get if we continue the normal way we're doing right now is a few $100 million of public relief through the public appeals, and that will be for relief operations and NGOs. And we will get maybe a few $100 million for reconstruction financing. And development financing will turn out to be very rigid and very hard to move unless there's a conscious understanding of linking all of these things together. So let me close by hoping that what all of the organizations and agencies could do is agree on Haitian government leadership, integration of relief, reconstruction, and development, and creating a multi-donor fund to facilitate this process, being honest with ourselves of how hard it is unless we do something unusual, and taking the lesson from the hurricanes up to the earthquake where nothing moved, and understanding we need a new approach to actually make the financing move and to fit these various categories. And finally, I just want to emphasize one more time. The rains start in about 8 weeks. That means risk, for populations, shelter, flooding, hurricanes, and it also means opportunity for planting. And we should be attuned to that timetable, because that's the real life timetable. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's a sobering presentation. I just wanted to take this opportunity to tell you that this is also a fundraising event, and it is a fundraising going to Partners in Health. And the reason why we decided to do that is that you probably saw them on the pictures that you saw. There was a tent with cots and a lot of wounded coming, and I just want to reinforce what Jeff was saying about the lack of health capacity that the UN had. There was absolutely nothing there. There were a few bandages and not even painkillers with hundreds of wounded coming. The only one was really Partners in Health. So our fundraising tonight is for them. Tatiana, I wonder if you wanted to add something to what Jeff had said before we give the floor to somebody else.
Sure. I think I'd like to begin by saying, that Haiti is a 200-year-old world system problem that has needed serious attention. She has been at this crossroad between deprivation and absolute decline for a very long time, way before the earthquake. And to understand what needs to happen, I think we must digest much of what Jeff had just noted, the problems facing Haiti in all its development dimensions. To understand that, crucially and fundamentally, the problem is an organizational one. The first 100 years of its inception and thereafter, between fending off its folks to, before defending its independence and being under a 100-year-old embargo, it had never had time to organize its society. So Haiti never organized itself socially, economically, spatially, not even culturally, in the sense of how institutions and frameworks used to go forward. So I agree with what Jeff says, and I have been pounding at this for the last 20 years. Haiti is not a country to be reconstructed. It is a country to be constructed from the very beginning, as we speak. So right after this relief phase, and the relief phase also has to actually begin to undertake this, to be fundamentally inserted into the idea that a national spatial economic development planning is the first policy to go. And by that, I mean that the organization problem has to be resolved within Haiti. It has to find a way for that society to come out organizing itself at its own image. And hence my worry. Hence my worry through the UN system, through the US system, and in the slew of NGOs that operate in Haiti. And that there hasn't been an instant in the third world that I know of that foreign entities go about building a country and letting the country be built by its own image. Hence the real problem. Because Haitians deeply want to participate in all phases of their relief, recovery, and development. And if at the onset they're not integrated, fully integrated in these processes, they revolt. Because they are fiercely independent, proud, heroic people. But yet they need the assistance. The assistance has to come in a way of almost of caressing. Because it is, remember, it's a country that's been isolated its first 100 years. And then thereafter, it has been held in contempt, almost. And so it's almost it's going to be a very sensitive way of foreign entities to help carve out this development if it is to happen in Haiti's image, by Haitian people, and from the spirit of Haitian people. That has never happened. And I don't understand, and from my experience, having written a book on social system structure of Haiti, and spanning, all 10 departments, surveying the Haitians, the Haitian population, and asking them, what is their ideal society? And understanding that ideal society is not usually the image, nor culturally sensitive, is not in the image of foreign entities who conduct development work in practice, so-called. It needs this type of development in which we're talking about post-relief needs to be done with a lot of hand-holding, a lot of patience, requiring a lot of time and a lot of money, and to understand fundamentally the dynamics in Haitian society right now as it exists, and to understand that the population is so traumatized, so that you have to take into consideration as we're rebuilding, or building rather, and as you're organizing society economically, socially, you also have to organize it culturally. And by culture here, I simply mean institutions that provide moral support to keep up the courage and hope. Haitian people always say, where there's life, there's hope. And fundamentally, they believe in it. There's life, there's hope, and they'll keep on pushing that hope. But yet, every institution that we know of in Port-au-Prince has collapsed. The schools have collapsed. The churches have collapsed. The government buildings have collapsed. The churches actually are extremely important because the Catholic Church, more especially, is tied to the voodoo religion. So if you can't go to the cathedral to worship, to give to the poor, which is a big, the Gede season, which is in November, that's a huge feat, and we never think about these things. If you can't go to St. Joseph or St. Anne, it's a huge, these buildings have collapsed. And so understanding the gravity of all of these institutions that have collapsed, and they weren't well organized to begin with, and now you have to reshape, organize it, but in a way that the Haitian people will feel that is their own. That takes a lot of patience. And I'm not sure that we've had the type of technical, this sort of, it's beyond just pure technicality. This sort of very caring technocracy, whether it's via the UN, whether it's via USAID, no one has ever felt it in Haitian society. And so if it is to happen now, and it needs to happen now, but yet themselves, on the ground, they're having problems with their own coordination. And so how do we begin to push or to advocate for the need for national development, national spatial economic development, because Haiti is spatially, like I said, needs to be developed, and they have, and not just the focus on sectoral development, because you have to understand that the 10 departments of Haiti are very distinct. Actually, they've been isolated, but physically, because of our range of mountains and the way our rivers cross. So the 10 departments physically are isolated from one another, whereby the northern folks have totally different temperaments than the southern folks, or the landlocked folks which live by the border. They speak a Creolized Spanish, for God's sakes, right? So it's a very so without understanding the dynamics and the commonalities, what makes Haitian identity strong and great, and what also separates them. In order for you to come out with a cohesive society that has just been traumatized and really shaken from the president down to the last man. And that's my real worry, that how do we begin to, and which entity, is the IDB going to carry, while it's holding the money, how do we what entity do we trust for implementing such a reconstruction and development? And in our discussion, we think there has to be a high commission on reconstruction and development made up by Haitian people, of course bolstered heavily with a foreign expert, because we need it, we lack it. The Bureau of Statistics lost all its people, including newly trained statisticians that we've just gotten. Haitians who had just trained in the United States that went back, lost. So, of course, we need the expertise, but they have to walk hand in hand with Haitians who are left in Haiti, who want to participate in it, and also combined with the Haitian diaspora. You've got a large Haitian diaspora that's ready to go back home. I became a planner to go plan for my country. And there's a lot of us who are that way and ready to go. And so the concern, to wrap up, is that the concern has to be a systemic and a systemic approach to development, and starting with relief efforts through the reconstruction effort through the development, which requires a map of the plan I foresee is a blueprint from which not only can we organize the different development dimensions, and by that I mean the economic, the social, the cultural, and the political, but also within that, so all the actors will know what their roles, how they play the roles. NGOs play all kinds of roles in Haiti. The UN system play all kinds of roles in Haiti. And the coordination is never there because there's never been a national plan within which everyone finds themselves. I just want to stop there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was wondering if you wanted to say something.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth, both for the invitation, but also for the way you began this. I'm very pleased that you began with our Haitian colleagues, because so few of the efforts on Haiti begin with Haitians. And I think the two speakers that just gave us a sense of that, lest anyone in the room accuse me of saying that Jeff Sachs is Haitian. For the record, he's not. But for our colleagues and for Jeff with the travel exemption, I think this is the right way to begin this discussion. Haiti is a devastated country today. There is no doubt about that. It is a country that is in mourning but has no time to mourn. People having to work through daily survival issues even as they've lost many loved ones. At some very profound level, all of my colleagues at the UN can empathize very sincerely, both because of the presence in Haiti, but because of our own losses. I think the working wounded, if you will, is something that we are sharing all too much these days with the people of Haiti. But there is also a serious burden on the UN. I think, as the previous speaker just mentioned, the UN has, for various reasons, ended up playing many key roles in the country of Haiti. And when we heard that there was a significant quake 10 days ago, we kicked our systems into gear to start planning what could be done to help Haiti, not realizing that the very people we were counting on to execute that were under tons of rubble. but it shows the problem that we are facing right now in playing our fundamental and normal international organizational role of pulling all the international organizational actors together. Haiti, because of the situation that was just described, has an unbelievable array of international actors acting inside Haiti in normal times. And today it has gotten much more dramatic with various efforts pouring in from all over with no centralized coordination to speak of. And this is the reality of what my colleagues in the UN are trying to pull together. Just the international response is a challenge. I don't want to repeat a number of things that have been said, so I won't try to cover everything, but I want to make a few kind of points maybe that haven't been mentioned. In terms of immediate needs, just to give you a sense of the scope of what Haiti is facing right now, the food needs, under normal times it is considered that 1.8 million Haitians are food insecure, in that nice technocratic language of the international community. That means one little shove and you don't eat. And unfortunately, we just had a big shove. The current estimates for immediate food needs are 2 million people right now. We've scaled up food assistance in unbelievable time, given the lack of infrastructure, the lack of the people who were killed in the quake that are needed to organize this. The international community has responded very swiftly on the food front, but we've only reached about 500,000 people. And this is as fast as anyone can go and has ever gone, I would say, to get food assistance into a devastated area. But we need 2 million now, really yesterday. But what kind of food assistance? We are piling up in warehouses, rice and beans and all the things that you normally pile up. But there is no capacity to cook in Haiti. The systems that would provide the fuels that are needed to cook aren't there. The forests are devastated. The transportation isn't there to get what is there to the right places. So if you have a bunch of grains that need cooking, but you don't have the ability to cook them, that food doesn't do much good, which shows the systems problem. This isn't just about inputs and getting bags of X, Y, or Z to the right place. You actually need to approach the immediate needs from a systems perspective on how to get everything you need. You need the supply lines. You need the security. You need the goods. You need the other goods that will help you prepare those goods. So just to take the immediate food needs, it shows not only that the systems that did exist have been devastated, but that what we are trying to provide to Haiti is not always going to be able to be used if we don't think this through from that system's perspective. To just give you another sense of the scope of what we're facing right now, the UN put out a call, the humanitarian coordinator put out a call in Montreal today, a global appeal for meals ready to eat for this very reason, that there is no ability to prepare food for millions of people right now. There are not enough identified meals ready to eat in the world right now for Haiti. Not enough meals ready to eat identified that we have for Haiti, for one country. That's how devastating this quake is and the volume that we're talking about. Under normal circumstances, many countries, scores of countries, have meals ready to eat in their military and their humanitarian operations, and having tapped out everything that we have, we now had to put out a global call for everyone to go into their stocks, go into their warehouses, and find more meals ready to eat, because Haiti needs those now, and there's no other real alternative for the time being. That's the scope of just how overwhelming this is. But we can't forget water. We're providing water for 235,000 people now. That no one is under the illusion that that's even a fraction of what is necessary. Shelter, providing probably about temporary facilities for about 350,000 now. It's safe to say that at least 600,000 to 800,000 identified need additional temporary shelter right now. Jeff Sachs spoke a bit about the medical situation, the medical services. And I think the problem that he defined is a very real one. There's no centralized authority either in Haiti or in the international community when it comes to emergency medical response. And therefore, the stories of these emergency medical teams coming in, while it might sound heroic, the fact is doesn't surprise me at all to hear that medical teams are then walking away, because again, they don't have a place to plug in their generators, they don't have all the things they need to function. So we do need to look at the entire medical and public health arena as a special area of need in the coming days and weeks. Not just the goods issue, not just bandages and blood and all the inputs. We need the actual systems, and that is not something that's mobilized quickly or easily. I won't say much about the security challenge because I think Jean-Marie Guénon is the right one to address this. But to just give you a sense of what is going right in Haiti right now, while the scads of journalists who descended upon Haiti have been looking for and finding isolated incidents of violence. So far, that's what they are, isolated incidents of violence. If you can imagine what has happened to Haiti, the fact of the discipline and the relative calm that exists in Haiti today, albeit a very fragile calm, is really quite impressive. And I think it's impressive first and foremost for the Haitian people and what they are doing to maintain their dignity and their calm under extraordinary circumstances. But it is also a testament to the United Nations. As devastated as UN peacekeeping in Haiti was, as devastated as the international police forces in Haiti have been, and in fact forces that were decapitated. No, there we go. The fact is that the UN and the troops and the police that the UN has on the ground, working with those elements of the Haitian National Police that are still functioning, have been able to keep relative calm. You wouldn't know that if you watched American television, but that is the fact of it, that there is a remarkable calm for a situation that we're experiencing right now. One other area that I'd like to mention, in order to empower Haitians to take control of their own lives, the need to make sure that those systems which did exist do start functioning again is absolutely essential. It's been very encouraging in recent days that there is some food appearing in markets and on street corners again, albeit in very small quantities, but to see normal systems reasserting themselves. The problem, of course, is that so few have money to be able to access what food does exist. With the help of MINUSTA and the DPKO colleagues, they've been able to help to reopen 47 banks in the last 10 days since the earthquake. This may not sound like much, but having 47 branches upon which people can draw their money not only allows some normal systems to start functioning for food, for water, the like, but it also helps give people a sense that there is a system. And so things like banks that really do matter to people, but then look to people who don't have banks or bank accounts. What are the systems that we need to reestablish immediately to give Haitians a sense of control of their own destiny, so they aren't just lining up in food lines in front of international volunteers. Another challenge that I'd like to just mention that I'm afraid we're going to be hearing a lot more about in the coming days and weeks is a tremendous situation of internally displaced people. The fact is that in order to deal with the tremendous problems in Port-au-Prince, the government has been assisting people to leave Port-au-Prince. There are at least 235,000 people we've been able to count who are now living in places where they don't have any connection to. And that's growing by the day. And therefore, those populations are vulnerable. They are a specific population of great worry, and it's growing by the day. And it's happening in different parts of the country, so then you have to be able to reach them in different places. So the IDP problems are very real. Maybe just a couple final observations, and one is on the issue of how to achieve multiple things at one time. We have to look for interventions that can achieve multiple things because we don't have the luxury of just focusing on single issues. One of those kind of important interventions that's been identified now is being able to get the food for work and cash for work programs up and running. These are the programs that in any situation anywhere in the world are never funded. No donor wants to give money for cash for work. It's a born loser. Handing over a bunch of cash to people that you can't get receipts from or be able to account to your accountants that you paid a certain amount to certain people, it just has moral hazard written all over it. And yet there's nothing more necessary right now, because it's not just that services need to be delivered and rubble needs to be cleared and people need to be found, and that the person in power to do that is the Haitian people. You don't need to import people to do that, but you do need to be able to pay them for that work, and in so doing, give them a hand in their own recovery. There are people wandering all over the streets today. They cannot continue to wander and mourn and be kind of aimless. They need to have something they can do in reconstructing their own country. So getting the cash for work and the food for work programs up and running immediately is essential. I will say that prior to the experience in Haiti, we had a previous request for food for work after the last major earthquake in Pakistan, and exactly 0% of it was funded. Exactly zero. It is hard, but it is, in this extraordinary circumstance, one of the most immediate needs and something that we are focused on very strongly right now. Finally, just in closing, a word about a word that I've heard tonight from various speakers, and it could not be more true, the word heroic. In our daily lives, we don't get to have too many heroes in our lives, I think, in the 21st century. I dare say if anyone around the room sits around and tries to think about how many people they really consider heroes in their life, it's probably not a tremendously long list. I will tell you from what we have seen in Haiti in the last 10 days, the list of Haitian heroes and the list of international heroes, the list of UN heroes is long and deep. And what we need to do is capture that spirit and extend it into these big systems problems, the fundamental systems problems of Haiti and the fundamental systems problems of the international community. I was very struck by the comment that this is kind of a 200-year-old international organization problem. This is our chance to try to turn this around, both let the Haitians turn their country in a new direction, but the international community has to have a new relationship with Haiti, a very different relationship with Haiti than it's had in the past. And it's this heroism on which I think we can build. It has a transformative character. Anyone who's seen it is affected by it and motivated by it. And we need hope, we need motivation, and we need staying power. I think a number of speakers have talked about this is the moment, capture the money, stick it in the banks. But we need more than just to get the money in the banks. We need to organize ourselves in a way that is sustainable so that Haiti will not go unaccompanied 1 week from now, 1 month from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now. Haiti will need accompaniment on this extraordinary journey back. But I think if we can capture and utilize the spirit of the heroism that we've seen there, we will at least have a starting point. Thank you.
I would very much like to keep some time for question and answer. I'm sure you have many. So I will give the floor to Ambassador Barton, who has promised me to show the example and only speak for a few minutes.
Thank you. I can see the clock right in front of me, so there's a convenient reminder. First off, I'd just like to thank you, Elisabeth. Thanks to the other panelists for their comments. I think it's easy to associate with them. I'd like to start by just asking how many people in the room have been in Haiti? I just show me quickly. So a good representative sample. I started working in Haiti in 1990 in the elections, which really were the sort of the breakout moment for the country when it was hoping that it would really reverse its 200 years of exploitation and really undemocratic rule. And then in 1994, right after the U.S. invasion, I was able to lead a multilateral team that set up offices in 13 different parts of the country. And we also worked on a local governance program, which was very much driven by what local people wanted as opposed to the prescription that we came in with. And we also worked on civilianizing the Haitian military, which was a much reviled institution at that time. So I've had a wonderful chance, as those of you who raised your hands, to really get a feeling for the country and a deep respect for the people and the creativity and the energy that they brought to a really very, very trying domestic circumstance, and also a feeling for this rich diaspora that we've gotten to know around the world. I think just very briefly I'd like to say something about what the United States is trying to do in Haiti now, and then just offer, if I have more than a minute, to offer 4 rules, but I'll come back to those if the time is short. I think what you're seeing right now in Haiti for the United States government is really an unprecedented response. It is sincere, it is eager to focus on the Haitian people, it is committed to working with the Haitian government at all levels. It believes in UN leadership on this, and it is not just going through the motions. It is doing everything that our government is capable of doing. Others have spoken about many of our shortcomings, and they are evident to all of us. But the sincerity of this effort and the belief that the United Nations should be in a lead coordinating role is genuine. And when I've seen when I've seen disagreements over the last week, when I've seen disappointments, when I've seen fatigue, I have also seen everybody making one more effort to make sure that it wasn't personalized, that we didn't get into the usual back and forth. And I think that quality is very much driven by President Obama's commitment to this and the guidance that we're getting on a daily basis to not let the usual tensions, which happen in a situation like this where people are clearly under a tremendous amount of pressure to do the nearly impossible in the time that's really not available. So it has been a very positive outpouring. There's still plenty more to do. And what I would say is we look ahead to the reconstruction, and this is something, or the construction, however you want to call it. This is something that I've worked on in 30 countries from all over the world over the last 20 years. But there is clearly no silver bullet. We have to put the people first. We have to find ways of empowering them in a much greater way than we are used to doing. You've heard a number of good ideas in that regard. And we really have to be catalytic in that regard. And so I would put at the very top of the list public safety and rule of law first, because people have to have an environment that they can work in. Secondly, we have to be very opportunistic in our governance partners. We have to take them wherever they are, because the central government is going to take a long time to get itself back together. And this is a building period. Third, we have to expand individual choice. So the cash programs are really absolutely wonderful. They've worked in the Pakistan earthquake, even if there wasn't a response of food for work, and in Kosovo and other places. And then we have to keep our larger plans extremely simple. Chaos requires a simple response. If it gets too exotic, you're likely to run into trouble. So I look forward to your questions and comments, and I hope that we'll have a chance to answer them.
You kept your promise. Jean-Marie, you have to do better. I'll be even shorter.
What can a peacekeeping operation do in Haiti? A peacekeeping operation that has been decapitated and lost many of its best people who had the care and the humility to help, to work with the Haitians. First, of course, people see with blue helmets, people with soldiers with guns, they see police officers, so they think first in terms of security. And indeed, there is a role there. And MINUSTAH in the past has played a role in securing places where there were gangs. But I very much agree with what Bobo said, and what actually Commissioner Kelly said right after the earthquake, as he was coming back from Haiti, that this whole notion that violence was going to break was a deep misreading of what the Haitians are. In New York, I think there are like 34,000 police at any time, or more. And this is a city that goes about, but this is the number required to keep it safe. Haiti has been remarkably safe, considering the circumstances, exceptionally safe. So indeed, there may be a temporary need for some additional troops, or more importantly, police. But I don't think that security is the greatest contribution that MINUSTAH can make. I think the most important issue, in a way, for the leadership of the mission, for Edmond Moulet today, is, I don't want to be paradoxical, but in a way is to fight the natural flow of the international community and to help the Haitians get a grip and rein in the international community. To help do what Tatiana was saying needs to be done. This year, and I had not noticed, it's Hedi Anabi who wrote to me that just before he died, there were going to be 3 elections in Haiti. Legislative, vote on the constitution, and presidential. Yeah, and mayoral. So a huge series of elections. He called it the mother of all elections year. In a way, it's a reflection of what Tatiana was saying, the whole question of organization. How does that society come together? I think the UN there, the peacekeeping mission, may have a role in working out with the Haitian authorities the kind of structures that will be needed to manage that emergency. And to go against the flow, and now I'll be a little more specific. Haiti, as we all know, is a country where, as again Tatiana said, there's been a huge imbalance. It's not normal in a country that the capital city has 3 million people. It's essentially a third or more of the country. It's huge. There's an enormous imbalance between Port-au-Prince and the other cities of the country, Port-au-Prince and the countryside. And so there are going to be strategic choices that the government of Haiti will make. Does one want to rebuild Port-au-Prince as more than a third of the country? Or does one plan for Haiti? Because there's a different relationship between Port-au-Prince and the rest of the country. The natural tendency of the international community will be to focus on Port-au-Prince. That's what happened before the earthquake. That's what will happen after the earthquake. I remember being in Haiti and being struck by the fact that 95% of international aid was focused on Port-au-Prince. You went to Benaï, you went to Cap-Haïtien, you saw very few internationals, actually in 2 big cities outside Port-au-Prince. If you went further in the countryside, you saw nobody. That's a real issue. Can the UN help the Haitian government fight against that? Can the UN help fight against the dominance of cities versus the countryside? And there was mention of the Artibonite, which used to be a great rice-producing region, but where the old irrigation, all that has been over time through neglect, lack of resources, essentially the terrible figures that were being mentioned by Jeffrey Sachs on the productivity. Is one ready to help the countryside? It's more complicated than just pouring aid into cities. I think there the UN can help. What structures? I mean, I don't know enough to know exactly how to put it together, but I think something along the lines of what was done in the Marshall Plan context. So it's very different. In Europe, you had a lot of educated people, much more than you have in Haiti. But nevertheless, joint commissions where you combine a measure of international expertise with funds, with Haitians, also how you mobilize the diaspora. When you think that the diaspora of Haiti, I think, brings about a little more than $1 billion, $1.2 billion every year to Haiti. If there is an increase in those funds, which is already very generous from the diaspora, but let's say if there was an exceptional increase, which is possible, but for a fund for Haiti, co-managed with the Haitians, and it's a very politically sensitive issue, the balance between the role of the diaspora and the Haitians who are in Haiti. All that needs to be managed with great care and delicacy. But I think that's where an enlightened leadership of UN mission can help fight the tide so that the Haitians at the end have the upper hand and build a Haiti that will be different from the Haiti that suffered the earthquake, which for me is only half a natural disaster. It's a disaster that in a country that had the structures, the solid political structures to deal with that disaster, it would have been a terrible tragedy indeed, but in a different order of magnitude. And so the role of the political side of the UN in the peacekeeping operation now, for me, it's to look at the systems and to help the Haitians build systems that will not avoid future natural disasters, but that will change the order of magnitude, the impact of those disasters on Haiti. Thank you.
Pablo, you have the last word.
I have to be brief because I remember when I was a student, I didn't like that I didn't have the chance to talk. Everybody was taking the word. I will just maybe complement if people have some questions on that. I just wanted to re-emphasize what has been said. That it's very important the government is in the lead for two reasons. One is because it's their role and it's necessary and it will work better. But second, because all the considerations regarding Haiti are so complex, that only the people that are living there, they will be able to find the solutions to the problems that they face. We can, of course, support technically and wherever we want, but they are the ones who will find a way to get it done. The second one is a remark that was previously said that I really like as well, that we have to make an effort to have a recovery process where, people are at the center of the reconstruction. They are at the center of the destruction. They are at the center of the democracy, wherever, as weak as it can be, it's still democracy. And I think the process of reconstruction should strengthen this kind of process, and they should be like at the center of the consultation, the participation, the definition of the reconstruction, and the entire process. And all the organizations should be accountable to people, and starting by the UN, of course. And I think this is something that will be important. There are very good lessons from the Somalia, for example, and I'm sure there are many other places, and something that we have to do. So just to mention two things, I'm sure the process is not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult. Now there is a recovery phase, there is a cash for work. There are 5,000 people already today working on cash for work programs. It will be 10,000 by the end of the year, by the end of the week. We'll get to maybe 100,000, 150,000 people in a matter of weeks. So that's going to be important to get more into the communities and many other things that are related with that. It's not going to be perfect. That's not going to happen. It's never perfect. All the money will maybe not be there. There will be problems along the line, but it will happen. It will happen because before the crisis, Haiti was in the road to recovery and was reaching some positive growth, economic growth, 3% I think last year. There was some investments coming to the country for tourism and other things. There was hope in the economy. Insecurity went down dramatically. And to some extent, you could see a collective effort of the country to move forward. I'm sure that as soon as we are able to move forward with the reconstruction process, the Haitians will recover the hope that they need to move forward with their own development. And what we want to do is support financially, technically, but they should be on the way for that. I have different figures and things like that, but I prefer to leave the floor for the questions.
I'm going to open the floor to questions, but I just wanted to highlight one thing which has been said tonight, which to me is the most difficult thing, and probably you are right, perhaps the peacekeeping operation can refocus its emphasis there. But how do we use this rebuilding, so to speak, to make sure that the people of Haiti have a voice in the reconstruction? To me, this is such a difficult, it sounds easy, but it isn't. And I'm sure Tatiana must have a lot to say, being with civil society, but how can we make this happen? That perhaps Haiti, who was more in the hands of a few of the elite, and this is not only Haiti, can really now have a process where the people of Haiti are involved. To me, this is really the question that I would like to ask to everyone, and how do we encourage this, and how do we help the people to have a voice and to have a say in what they are going to do next. And that to me would be using a crisis as an opportunity. And I just wanted to finish saying that. So now we open the floor to the question. You go there and you introduce, no, we have okay, so sorry. Okay, choose, Karina. Can you introduce yourself and also say if there is one particular speaker you would like to answer?
Sure. Thank you so much. My name is Amant. I'm a postgraduate from SIPA. It's good to be back. And just following on your comments, your ending comments, is that I was really wanted to take 1 second to also follow up on what you mentioned, is that a lot of students and also postgraduates at SIPA, we're very close to this conflict. And we, as you show from show of hands, a lot of us have been directly involved in Haiti. And so I want to take this opportunity, if it's not been mentioned, is that a couple of colleagues and myself are planning to do actually a short-term and a longer-term sustainable development work in Haiti. We've already identified 3 local partners who work in north of Haiti, specifically for medical aid and supplies. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that we all want to do something, and we are so limited. But this is your opportunity. You can't miss our face, have this spirited face and this book. And if you guys want to get involved after this meeting, after this event, please find me, and we can take this further and do actually something as a SIPA community in Colombia as a whole. Thank you.
We do not have too much time left because I'm sure somebody is going to push us out of the room. So make your question very short. Don't make an expose. Okay.
Hi. Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Duquesne Fernand. I am Haitian, and I am a 2008 SIPA graduate. I have 2 questions. The first question might be geared toward the Haitian panelists. We all understand that Haitian has to be part of the solution, and we have to lead the way. But oftentimes in Haiti, that Haitian doesn't trust their government. How do we go about rebuilding that country when Haitians often take matters in their own hand, and they don't look at the government as the solution because they often see the government as a problem. So they'll either think the government's going to take the money and put it in some bank account in Switzerland, or buy themselves a nice mansion on the coast of France. And that's, and that's a good point for that because oftentimes it does happen. How do the government can actually work with the Haitian to regain trust? So that's the first question. And the second question is, how can the diaspora, Haitian diaspora, participate in that rebuilding process? While we know that Haitians contribute to 1/3 of the GDP in 2008, about $1.9 billion was sent by the Haitian diaspora, but they have no voice or no say in the decision making in Haiti. How do we reconcile those 2 situations?
Thank you. Shall we take a few questions, or do you want to answer? Yeah.
I figured there will be such a question because the record, and in fact, the sort of traditional view of the Haitian government has been that the Haitian government is so corrupt and so irresponsible that providing support to the government of Haiti, would essentially equal, spending your money, unwisely. Let me say the following. I think this has been mentioned here. It has been noticed in the last 2 years or so that there has been much progress with respect to the ability of the government to rise up slowly in small steps to the occasion. And this is part of the reason why I chose, for example, to be part of the government at a particular point in time. I personally led the National Coalition for Haitian Rights, based in New York for quite a number of years, and challenged the government of Haiti many years on its human rights and policy, as well as its many other policies. In fact, and never thought of myself as being part of an institution that had such a bad reputation. But given what was going on last year, which was increasingly showing that the government of Haiti was becoming more and more open to new ideas, more and more open to providing a stable environment in which contributions could be made, both with respect to the private sector initiatives as well as public sector initiatives, that I thought that this was, in fact, an opportunity to get involved. And let me say this, there is no way of getting around the fact that in order for a country to grow, you need a government, you need an institution. So government is essential. The question then becomes the responsibility of the government to be as open as possible to you is reflected in a couple of choices. The fellow who heads, that guy that responds to the second question you asked, respect to the involvement of the Haitian diaspora. The fellow who is now the Minister of Haitians Living Abroad, used also to be the person who fought heavily enough for Haitian rights in the Dominican Republic, has joined the government and has been, in fact, more open to involvement. And we were working together on ways in which we could increase involvement of the Haitian diaspora. I truly believe that the Haitian diaspora is a huge asset to the people of Haiti, and that there needs to be the skills and competence and wisdom that they can bring to bear on the challenges that we face. Those challenges, obviously, are much bigger today than they were, in fact, earlier. But these are the challenges that are going to test your mettle. They are going to test whether or not you are speaking and really ready to roll up your sleeves, or you are simply standing by and being passive while others will take the lead. And my sense here is that it is now your moment to get involved, and I wish you would get involved.
Tatiana, do you want to add something?
I guess I just want to reiterate, I just want to do the diaspora one. I'll leave the first question to Charlie. The government has always been very, very weak for a very long time. It needs the diaspora to also meet it halfway. And, and the same thing that's happening in Haiti happens in the diaspora. It's time for organization. There's a social contract that needs to happen within the diaspora community. It too is splintered. And not until the diaspora community itself, much like the Indian diaspora has done, the Armenian diaspora, of course for different reasons, they have to come together under one goal, not being splintered between Miami contingent, Boston contingent, New Jersey contingent, New York contingent, and we all, we know why the problems exist. So there have been so many diaspora congresses trying to come to the commonality about what's that one purpose. that the diaspora, what's that one goal? Again, I go back to that national spatial economic development, because that itself encompasses, covers what role is or the diaspora going to play. But also it has to meet the government halfway, that how organized have the diaspora itself been to insert itself in this correct role in Haiti. It's a two-way street. It can't just be a one-way street. And leadership is taken, not given.
We'll take the next question.
Yes, my name is Tom Vrinks. I'm a Dutch journalist, and I came back from Haiti this weekend. And I was probably one of the few journalists who was there during the earthquake. We're doing with a group of Haitian friends here in New York, doing a couple of projects, which has nothing to do with journalism, in Haiti, in the Arctic infrared, and one also in the south. By the way, we're making these sleeves for iPhones. You can get them at Book Culture. Sorry, I have to pitch this. I just wanted to give you a few of my observations. I'll try to do it in 30 seconds. When you're there, and you probably read it if you follow the news from my colleagues, you get very angry about how slow the aid was. I mean, I was there on behalf, because I have a UN press card, I was there on behalf of funding for 2 Haitian hospitals to get medical supplies, or stacked up your UNDP publicly and sent them to the airport, and you couldn't get it till Friday this weekend. It was a private organization that gave it. I mean, it's really a goddamn scandal how all the meetings and all the coordinators and all these beautiful people in the SUVs, more than in the Hamptons on 4th of July, are driving around, and the aid is so slow, and people losing their lives and their limbs because the medical, as has been said, and the healthcare is so slow. My other concern is that this huge, gigantic aid machine, in some cases, may do more harm than good. I mean, we're all talking about food supplies. You have to remember that nobody in Haiti had one before the earthquake. I mean, they all did with what was given from the diaspora. Food is abundant. We did many food transportations from Verret to the Arctic to the capital. But food now is also, the last day that I was there on Friday, you see food everywhere. But you see people angry because the rice that's given, the Miami rice that's given, is stolen and it's sold again, right? I mean, how do you feel if you were a rice farmer in Haiti? I mean, so the emphasis in the whole supply is wrong. I mean, water is needed in the capital, food is not needed. I mean, people need money to buy the food. They always cook on the charcoal fires. It's not different if you're out in the street or, if you're in your house. I mean, it's not different. So you have to take these things in consideration. And my fear is that the enormous amount of money that goes into this aid organization, and I've seen it in 2008 after Golden Eve, after the hurricanes. Talk to any resident of Golden Eve if it got in any better situation, if you did this $200 million operation, you would say no. I mean, so my wariness is about how the big boys are handling it. And I would say to all of you, if you're concerned about Haiti, there was an article in the New York Times, how do you give to Haiti? I would not omit the small, heroic organizations that do good work here. Because I'm not so sure if, adding to the big heap is really going to help. And you have to be smart about it, and you have to be very critical. And the last point, as our previous speaker there said, nobody has mentioned the fact tonight that we have a democratically chosen government in Haiti, which has very strong autocratic tendencies, which has manipulated political process in the last couple of months, which has made sure that a number of parties are not involved in the political process anymore. The president has put almost all his cronies in every powerful position at the moment, and he can only do that because he's enabled by Washington to do so. And you have to keep an eye on that as well. And if everybody talks about participation of the Haitians and coordinations, you have to wonder who is there representing the Haitian people. It's not this government.
Thank you.
We may have some comments after that, but let's take another question.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Larry Millian, and I'm a Haitian American. And I have to thank every one of you. It's heartwarming to know how much you spent And for you to be here today, it's very, very heartwarming. And I thank you to the bottom of my heart for being here and for being here for all of us here. When I think about Haiti, because I was trained as a molecular biologist, when I think about Haiti, I think about fitness. It's all of us. We need to fit in the world. Why? Because the same thing that happened in Haiti can happen anywhere. And how would you feel being in the United States and being in the same situation? Fitness, survival. So this is again why I say thank you, because I think that the world responded because they know fitness is important. Survival is important. My father, which was actually Maximilian Théophile Leon, worked for ODVA, which was, he was the second head of that organization. It has never been this way that we didn't have food. Because my father would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and make sure that the peasants have water and have seeds, everything they needed to actually cultivate food. In the 1970s, the divided government pushed him out, and that's how he became an American citizen and died here in Markham County. My father had done everything he could in his power to actually feed the Haitian people in the world with food. And his generation had done so. Now, you could see the situation that happened afterward. Here I am here. I want to get involved. I hear that the Haitian diaspora doesn't help. We need to get organized. Yes, this is one type of modality of solving this situation. But how about me being here? How about you making the gesture and then take me within yourself in the UN to help? Thank you.
Any comments from the speakers so far? Then we move to the next question.
I have a simple question, but I'm Norman Chu, just a regular citizen, not a reporter. And I treat last 28 years New York as my front yard and New Jersey as my backyard. So my question is to Mr. O, Robert O. You mentioned the water needs for Haiti now. I hear a figure of 35,000. What's the projected or ballpark need to satisfy the current price in the next 3 months to a year or further on? And how is your opinion to satisfy it? Because I bet all the water mains are not in function or badly broken. So that's my question. And if I have time, I just have 2 words to share after you answer.
Pablo might be able to answer on the longer term water needs, but I think the immediate water needs right now, estimating that at least the 2 million people do not have access to any form of water they can count on right now. That's a tremendous amount of water because unlike food, which is easily shippable, water, given the discontinuity in all the systems and the congestion on the key roads and places, water is one of the major problems right now. And of course, if not addressed immediately, that can lead to a lot of the public health challenges that we could see a dramatic second wave of severe problems for the population if we don't hit that. But maybe, Pablo, if you could say a word on that.
Well, I may comment only that to the best of my knowledge, before the crisis, almost 50% of the population didn't have access to drinking water. And we expect that, as a result of this process, will be better. So some of these people will benefit. So the needs are not measured now. There is a post-disaster needs assessment which is going to assess all these needs, all needs, and quantify them, and they will be further presented. But we don't have any figures exactly now as how much it's going to cost.
Just one thing. Sorry about that. I want to share one thing. Somebody in Chicago is having a radio in Haitian language. So I just want to share this. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. 2 words to say. Sorry.
can I really ask the students to be short and not to make a presentation with their questions, because they are still a lot and we have to leave the room very soon. So next question.
Okay, I'm actually not a student, though I look like one. I'm actually leading an initiative in Haiti that is to develop a youth corps down there. Because, you know, a lot of what we're talking about is empowering the Haitian people to be involved in this process. But generally that does involve the Haitian government, which is a very elite, educated, small percentage of the Haitian population. And so what we're doing is we're building the capacity of the youth to actually get the communities engaged in a grassroots way. And I would like to know how it's possible to connect the two, to connect the grassroots movements, connect capacity building with whatever it is that is being planned by the international aid community as well as the government.
I'd like to answer that. You know, USAID had just spent $37,000 on Aide des gens. There's some wacky idea of getting youth together to clean the streets. It doesn't work. I think, you know, we're talking about right now development. Development of a country takes systematic change, qualitative and quantitative. No more NGO. We have there's 10,000 NGOs working. We have more NGOs than anyone in the world. India's next. No more little thing. What you need is a national development corps. Something like a corps of engineers. That's something that the UN and other donor community can help us put together. Very much like a military system to absorb Haitian labor, train them very well. I mean, real training, as if they're going to not only just boot camp, but actually going to school. Train them, send them out to do the work. The environmental reforestation that we need. All kinds of, we're talking a huge program, a national program. These youth, the youth program that you talk about, come in and out. It has been tried since the 1970s. Because what happens is that, on average, the dependency ratio for a youth of 15 is still 5. It's like an adult. At 5 years old, the kid is walking with jugs of water, carrying, to get the kid's employed. In fact, if you look at Haitian statistics, it starts at age 5 plus in terms of employment. These kids are employed. So when you're saying youth, you have to understand in what context are we saying youth. A 14 or 15-year-old in Haiti is not a youth like the United States playing with their toy. They're working. They're working and want to work to support their families. So it's a very different conception about youth program. I would rather you advocate to the powers that be to help the Haitian government actually put together a national development corps so that it could absorb its youth into real training and work program that they can go for.
Okay. I have a question. Can the diaspora that is involved in Haiti, can it vote?
No.
No. So that is a problem, isn't it? That's a problem because we are asking the diaspora to get involved in the political and the economic development of Haiti, but when they are overseas, they cannot vote. So that's a problem. But okay. My next thing is this. I think, Johnny, I had mentioned that to you once, and I don't know what was your response. I had asked Johnny, I don't know how many Haitians are in the United States. I'm not even going to talk about Canada and France. And my question was, if we were to pose a tax on every working Haitian in the United States, and they were to pay $300 a year, and that money were to go into the Inter-American Development Bank, and that was meant for Haiti, can this be done? That we, as Haitians, pay a tax that goes directly to Haiti for the development of Haiti. Can this be done? I mean, would that be in the way of the Haitians themselves helping their own country by paying a tax? That's all.
Well, I mean, I think the short answer is that I'm not sure. I'm not a tax expert, and I don't work with the United States government. so I don't know how people would be taxed. But certainly a voluntary contribution of $200 or more would probably, and in a scheme that says that this is going to be part of a trust fund that would be put to use in the development of Haiti, and you got to figure out what that development is and what that issue is going to be. Might be a good idea, but this is something that needs to be flushed out. It's not something that you have a ready answer for. But perhaps somebody who's much more familiar with development issues or tax issues, and so would be able to provide you with more guidance.
Any other comment? Okay.
So my name is Dr. Judy Kuryansky, and I'm a psychologist and a journalist at Teachers College, and I also represent the International Association of Applied Psychology at the UN NGO community. And I just got back from Haiti, so I love that I heard the word heroism. I noticed that the people were very stoic and taking real strength within themselves and being resilient. I'd like to hear the panel respond to the mental health of the people in this period, besides the word health I heard. And the second problem that I've not heard yet is about sanitation. I only saw 4 porta potties in the city, and there's a major public health issue. Thank you.
First, on the issue of mental health, I think is extraordinarily important right now. Unfortunately, all the systems designed for dealing with mental health tends to be on an individual basis, when in fact what some of the needs are huge and need to be addressed in mass ways. I have known in other circumstances of mental health professionals taken to the airwaves to be able to do some kind of collective counseling to the population at large. This is not a situation where anyone can get their mental health needs met, and they are tremendous right now. And it's not just of the affected population, it's of all the people trying to help them. It's oftentimes we forget about those who are trying to help, and they end up doing quite a bit of damage to themselves in trying to help. So I think we need to look in more than one direction. On the sanitation, it's absolutely true that we have to be working now to try to avoid what the next 2 or 3 big problems we might have. And by big, I mean that could be like the first wave in terms of the number of people affected. And so sanitation, food and water, shelter, right there at the top.
Hello, my name is Juan Blanco. I am an architect and urban planner. And I'd like to ask a question to interrogate further in a comment someone made about the fact that in Haiti, Port-au-Prince had something between 30-40% of the population and most of the resources. Speaking also of the exceptionality of this condition, unfortunately, this type of condition, this macrocephalic group of the capital, is something that's all too common in Latin America. And it's a direct consequence of the development model and of the autocratic governments that have taken place and that have garnered all wealth to the capital. Last year at the UN Conference on Habitat, someone was commenting on the beneficence of urbanization around the world as a way of spreading culture and civilization. When in fact someone else commented that in a country like India, over the last 40 years, the only thing that seems to have grown is the hundreds of millions of people that are living in squalor in urban shantytowns. I can't say I've been in Haiti, but I can imagine that the quality of life of people in Port-au-Prince must have been dismal even before the earthquake. My question is the UN taking steps to make the development, the reinvention of Haiti something that addresses the need, the absolute need for rural development, so that the people that are living in the countryside, and also I'd like to ask a question, in this disaster, we've all heard of the destruction of Port-au-Prince, but how far is the disaster extended into the countryside? What is the degree of reconstruction that has to take care of what existed before? But I'm only asking that question rhetorically, because what I really want to know is if this reconstruction in Haiti is going to give attention to the necessity to rebuild the countryside so that it's self-sufficient.
Well, it's a bit premature to make any statement on that because we will have to see if this is going to happen. But I think it's important to note, for example, the past year, there was a 5, depending on the sources in Haiti, it changed a lot, but between 5 and 20% of growth in the agricultural sector, which was very positive because it was, creating some kind of gains for the poorest people in the country. And as was rightly mentioned before, it's something that has to be at the core now of all the reconstruction and development effort to see to what extent those people who want to live in the countryside that will have the social services and the income will allow them to stay there. But let me share, the results of a survey that was done like many years ago in Port-au-Prince in the slums. I think what the USA who paid for this survey actually was asking the people, basically, are you happy now with your decision to move to Port-au-Prince? These people were very poor, many of them unemployed, terrible, living conditions. 93% of the people were happier than before. And living there, I was there living like for several years. It's hard to believe. But the fact is only 6 or 7% say that they could eventually consider one day to come back to the countryside. So obviously there was a reason for that. I don't have the answer, but this was what people were saying on the slum. So it's very complicated, and finally it's a kind of a personal decision. People, you may look for opportunities for you, for your family. So that's what I'm saying. This reconstruction and development program is going to be very complex, and the Haitian has to be at the core of it and see what is feasible and what is not. Same thing for the reconstruction now. There's all this say about where do you place a transitional camp for temporary shelter. It's a big decision because people fear that maybe become a new slum. It's extremely complex, and we just have to be able to take all these good ideas into consideration and leave the Haitians to find something which is appropriate for the local reality.
I just wanted to add something, and I think that for the audience and as well as for us who are working on this issue on a daily basis, to keep our eyes on the prize. There is no shortage of good ideas, and some of the issues that have been raised are issues that should be properly addressed. The fact that we have to have another sort of habitat, for the people of Haiti to live in, also includes the idea that perhaps there should be economic poles that would attract people outside of Port-au-Prince, instead of steering them into the capital city. So in other words, the deconcentration of capital flows and investment from Port-au-Prince to other cities and areas in which development can take place will probably lead the Haitians to believe that life there as well can be better. So there's no shortage of good ideas. The question is that what is the strategy behind it? And it is crucial then going to be the strategy behind the reconstruction effort or the building efforts, whatever you may call it. What happens from this point on is crucial for the international community, for the Haitians to review, take another look at the poverty reduction strategy that was adopted a couple of years ago, think about some of its implications, think about the implications of the current disaster, and how you're going to address the needs of the people of Haiti so that it deals with a number of issues that have in fact not come up. We're talking about international, and I'm sure the international community, including countries in the region, namely the Dominican Republic, Bahamas, and further down the road in the United States, are extremely worried that if nothing happens in Haiti that will provide hope for the people of the country, then external migration is going to set in, and therefore that's going to be creative of a huge other problem that is not even being on the table today.
Okay. Is there any more question? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Haiti. I'm a first-year student at SIPA. I'm also from Jacmel, Haiti, which is in the south. Just to add to what you were saying, one of the things also that the rural regions lack is infrastructures. There's no roads that facilitate the transport from people to rural areas to power plants, for example. So people would rather just live in power plants than go through the burden of going back home. In any case, my question is, why did it take so long for aid to reach rural areas? And even today, there's a lot of villages who have no international NGOs, who have no relief efforts. In Jacmel, I think we spent 8 days without seeing any effort. Why isn't the U.S. I'm sorry.
Has there been any effort to go into rural areas?
Sorry?
Why isn't the aid being deployed faster to rural areas?
Well, it should be. It should be. This operation was unfortunately, I would say, slower than it should be. There were many reasons for that. I mean, at least from the UN side, the logistical issue was a big one. The people who were working there, most of them passed away. So our main, most important qualified people that were there, they disappeared. So we had to replace these people to be able to access. There were logistical issues there in the capital. People could not move around. There was no information. There was no access. The airport was not functional, so it took longer, unfortunately, than it should. And I think, there is no excuse for that. I'm not going to say that this is the way it should be. The aid should be there from day 2. The fact is that most of the disasters are the people themselves, the ones who are responding the first. And the international community is often coming after 2 or 3 days or 4 days, depending on the case, to help. So often it's too late.
I wanted to add just one little thing, and not your question particularly. I wanted to go back into the question on mental health, just for a little bit, just to give you an idea about what I actually mean by national spatial development for Haiti. Is that on the question of mental health, who provides mental health right now for Haitians? These are the voodoo priests, actually. The voodoo priests are foremost the primary mental health expert for Haitians across the territory. You've got a love problem, you go to the voodoo. You've got a sickness problem, you go to every single thing around psychiatry, psychology goes there. Now, there's a lot of folks who are really worried, and we're traumatized by this earthquake, who are actually trying to envision how to, that's what I'm saying about who knows who to tap in the Haitian dynamics to deliver services. The first people who have to be trained in order to deliver services, because that people already go to them, would be the voodoo priests. But yet the folks who would, who have the money to deliver these services would not go firsthand to those first-line people who are, most of the time, by the way, illiterate, right? And so you would have to come up with a program that props up these folks, because these folks are what in Haitian parlance is the potomitan of the center of their community, and actually the community leaders. But we often bypass those as if they're not leaders in their community, and they are the ones who people go to for mental health. So, and mental health because it's part of life, mental health does not, Haitians have a horror of psychologists and psychiatrists. It's just taboo. You just don't go there, right? You go to your voodoo priest. And so, to think in the language problem is a huge one, right? So, and there are not that many trained ones. The people who are trained in psychiatry, psychology, social work are all Haitian Americans, very, very few on the ground, and the few that they are not spread into where the people need them. I just wanted to make that.
Just to mention something as well, which is very important. The government had some capacity to respond to this crisis. The government has also been badly hit. The place where usually what will happen is they receive the day after the assessment, then they deploy some support, they coordinate with the international community. This time they were also affected directly. I know several of the persons who were working on this structure that passed away, and the building was destroyed. So this also was a huge problem in terms of channeling the response to the disaster. And this, I think yesterday they find a place to start to work from. Only yesterday, actually. My colleague from the tourist may develop this further, but I think that was what happened as well in terms of the response.
It's difficult to judge and to pass a judgment from New York, because if you have been, at least in Port-au-Prince, I don't know the rest of the South, which was hit, but you can't explain how much is destroyed, the roads. We tried to drive, for instance, the day we left to go and get our passport in our hotel, because we had no papers and we had to leave the country, and we kept taking a road and then going back. It was blocked, everything was blocked, everything was destroyed, piles of rubble, people were dead all over the place. It's difficult to understand how perhaps the aid has been slowed down, the port was destroyed, the airport had been hit, and so many people were dead who were helping, really, and could have helped. So it's not an excuse. I totally agree with my colleague from UNDP that, aid is never enough. But I must tell you that the circumstances of this particular crisis are really overwhelming. And I don't know the rest, I don't know Jacmel, I know it has been very much destroyed too, but I haven't been there. But the logistic pose so many problems. So I don't know where they are now, because we left already, nearly a week ago now. But I just wanted to tell that it's very hard to describe. And also the country, everybody was in shock. And also the earth continued to tremble. Every day there were aftershocks, and some were really, strong. So people had lost their loved one. People were, the town was completely destroyed. It's apocalyptic what happened. So I'm sure there were other issues for the aid, maybe issues of coordination, but you have to keep the circumstances in mind as well, and it is really challenging, I must say. So maybe we move to the next question, if there is still one.
Hi, I'm Don Curry. I'm a first-year MIA student at SIPA, and I wanted to thank the panel, first of all, and appreciate that you guys understand the concerns of rural development in Haiti. And I just wanted to let you, I wanted to take this opportunity to invite students to come and apply to be considered for the spring break trip to Haiti that I'm trying to organize with a group of students. We're trying to link in with Doctors Without Borders, International Rescue Committee, Partners in Health, and the International Organization for Migration in the Dominican Republic and in Haiti. We're going to be going through Santo Domingo. If you have any questions, please contact me. I'll be in the back door. Thank you.
I was only advise students, SIPA students who want to go to Haiti in the spring to really follow the situation and make sure that you can do something which is really useful at the time, because it's not the time to burden the country further, so to speak, with studies just now. I don't know what you want to do, but do follow the situation very carefully till the spring, and then we can continue to speak. But I think otherwise it's a great idea.
My name is Anima, and I actually work at the UN. I'm a team assistant in the Department of Peacekeeping Operations. My question is in regards to the current relief efforts, specifically with the relocation of people to the outskirts of Port-au-Prince. Is it generally considered a good idea or a bad idea if it's a bad idea, what are the alternatives looking at the current situation? And if it's a good idea, or considering the fact that people are moving, I think whether on a national scale or even on an individual basis, they're moving away. What are the plans that are being made or could be made to get the much needed supplies and aid to these people who will be on the outskirts?
Well, I cannot answer this question. I'm sorry, I'm working for OCHA. I don't have the detailed answer on what is exactly the aid. I know that there are plans for that. I know that this has been something discussed and agreed with the government. And the people on the ground found that this was a solution to the current situation. I'm not in a position to judge if it was good or bad from here. I'm really sorry.
Is there any more questions?
I just want to add something just in connection with what she said. I established a relief center in Soho and we're collecting medical supplies to be shipped to Jacmel. Partners in Health is actually helping us. They're lending us their boats. So, and we're going to be setting up drop-off centers at SIPA. So if you guys want to, get supplies, tents, tarps, blankets, anything that could be used, you can drop them and we're going to get them delivered to Jacmel.
That's very, very good. Yeah. Okay. Perhaps we should conclude our panel. It's getting late. I just want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank Bob who has left. I want to tell you that this panel tonight was going to be on environment, Copenhagen, what's next? And I decided to switch at the last moment and have a panel on Haiti, and it's thanks to Bob, who has left, that a number of speakers are here tonight. It was not easy to get everybody, particularly because everybody is extremely busy with the issue of Haiti. So I want to thank the members of the panel, and I hope you found it useful, and I hope you will continue to get engaged. This is a long, long haul. So thank you for coming.